Greetings from FORUM Institut for Management. We are here today for another of our interviews on ESI Funds. And today I have the great pleasure to be here with Marina Mandac. Welcome, Marina.
Hello. Hi from Zagreb.
Hello from Heidelberg. I'm really happy to have you here. We have collaborated for about 2 years together, and I have the greatest respect for your work, and I thank you for the help you have given to me as well. So we are here today to make known ESI Funds and the work that you do and the important work that you do and how you started working with ESI Funds.
Thank you, Viola. It's my pleasure always to be in contact with you, also online, if not in person. I would also like to thank to the forum for having this great idea, actually to have this open to the public, kind of the story about what it means to be an auditor of EU funds. So my name is Marina Mandac, as Viola said, and I am the head of department for methodology in Croatian Audit Authority. Croatian Audit Authority is an agency with a really long name, Agency for Audit of European Union Programs Implementation System, which is actually abbreviated as ARPA. This is the abbreviation, which is actually well known in Europe among member states, because we really have a nice network and connections and interrelations with the audit authorities from all EU member states. I have been working in the audit authority ever since 2008 and have been employed already in the period of the pre-accession and the pre-accession funds for Croatia. As an auditor, I can tell you that I really have this kind of the overarching view of what EU funds really bring to a country, to a member state, to the people working in the system of EU funds, but also at this higher level, what it means really for the government of the country when they want to and when they need to present the influence of EU funds on the life of people in a country. So I would like to say that the job of the auditor is so challenging that we have to know really everything. It means we have to see how a project, how operation, which is funded from EU funds, is from the beginning designed, then how the process really goes on, so how the thing is contracted, how it is controlled, and in the end what funds are paid for some project, for some operation. We have to take care that everything is indeed legal, regular, according to the rules, to have a clear overview that there are no some irregular and ineligible maybe things paid within the project. So in this respect, it is really a responsible job. We always have to dig. So we have to dig into the papers, into the procedures. Then we have to dig in the real operation, in on-site operation. And we always have to have this ears wide open, not only when speaking to the beneficiaries, but also when speaking to key persons in the management and control system. And we have to follow what is written in the media, what is said on TV regarding, for example, certain programs, projects, generally about policies of EU funding in a member state, in our case, in Croatia. I can say that we are quite proud, actually, with our system, because if you ask me as auditor coming from Croatian system, I must say that we have always been quite busy with formulating and framing procedures in first place. Because as a country which needed to accede into EU, we needed really to have so many procedures, national rules, to set up the system, to have indeed information how it all works and functions, and then to check really this existence of the system and the functioning of the system. This was indeed the requirement for us to become EU member state. And that is on another side, actually the good and positive thing that we passed through such a requesting and demanding road to become a member state. And when we became a member state, it was easier in terms of the procedures and the setup of the system, but it was, of course, far more demanding in respect of the funds which we started receiving. That's why I can say that as an auditor and as part of the audit community here in Croatia, we firstly audited smaller amounts of money, and now we are really auditing a big envelope, which amounts to 30 billion euro for the 7-year programming period plus RRF funds. I will just maybe circle this first part of the story about EU funds in Croatia by saying that currently I'm part of the team auditing RRF in Croatia, and it really has this different and other perspective if we speak about audit world. Auditing RRF really differs from auditing other ESI funds, which have their nice cycle and annual, let's say, annual changes, which are then felt a year to year, and then, let's say, finalized by the process of the closure, which happens, of course, at the end of the programming period. So the nature of auditing can also has its, I would say, varieties and maybe some more or less challenges. And you would not believe we are a single audit authority for Croatia. So it means one agency auditing all funds, so including also agricultural funds. And there are so many differences between us and among all of us that we cannot even maybe have a chance to speak about all of them. So that's the world of auditing of ESI funds. Our greatest experience, and personally my greatest experience in audits, always happens when we come on the spot. So the best thing that can happen to an auditor is to review documents in the office. So firstly, do the desk review of the papers, and then to pay a visit to the beneficiary or to the institution, which is indeed involved, mostly involved with the management of a certain project. So the best thing that happens to us is maybe to come to a farmer or to kind of the maybe utility company in a small place and see how the project really works on site and what it means to the life of the citizens of Croatia. That is really the most challenging part, but also the most interesting part for all of us. Because we are not just auditors of funds, trying to find maybe something, trying to see what is missing, some weakness, some findings, some error. We also want always to give recommendations for improvements. So maybe everything really works, maybe everything really goes, but we want to make it better, maybe to release some of the administrative burden, maybe to speed up some process, maybe to say something is not needed, something is excessive. So the work of auditor really means not just giving some recommendations for taking out ineligible expenses, but also giving recommendations for improvements. This is also an interesting part of the auditor's work when you audit a system, because auditing a system provides us with excellent opportunity to have this umbrella view how the system of the institutions is working in order to implement and control, for example, ESI funds in our case in Croatia. So audit of a project, and on the other side, audit of the whole system is really something which gives us the full picture and the image how certain fund is being really implemented in a country. Then another thing is that we have to really closely follow the financial tracking of all the funds, of all the payments being done, of all the transactions. And once we dig in these transactions being done, we also see how much money is indeed spent for a certain project. then at the level of, for example, a certain priority, and then going up to the level of the program, and then in the end coming to the level of all ESI funds. So also then looking at these transactions and the financial management and tracking of the funds, it really then gives us more information about what exactly is funded by the ESI funds or, for example, other RRF funds in Croatia as well. We also have a chance, so when I mentioned that we go to on-the-spot visits, we have a chance to speak with a person or a company who applied for a project. And then we speak about future calls for proposals, some future opportunities, and then persons usually tell us that these were their good experiences, these were their bad experiences, and they already know what they should change when we speak about some future projects and future project applications for them. The first thing that the potential applicants usually mention is, oh my God, it's so much of the administrative burden, so much of the paperwork, of the documents, so many controls. We always come to the same point that there are so many levels of controls coming to check and audit a certain project. So the applicants usually say they are happy to have this opportunity for the co-funding of their project, of their idea. But on the other side, they are a bit burdened because of all those controls coming to them. What is even for them so surprising is that after a number of years, they can be subject to control. And then for us, it is one of the tasks as their national audit to really let them know that after a number of years, they can be visited by, for example, EC auditors, European Court of Auditors, and so on. So it's indeed really challenging for them to always keep in mind that once you sign a contract, once you sign within the contract your responsibility to have it all available, to have it all done properly, then really as the beneficiary of the project or maybe end recipient in certain cases, you really have to take care that your project is completed, that the results of the projects are really achieved, that your project keeps all these durability requirements, sustainability, and functionality requirements. So the idea and the concept of sustainability is also quite, for them, it is still quite, let's say, unknown area. And now we want to make focus on our responsible institutions that sustainability, durability, and functionality checks are also quite important part of the overall checks done by the system which is set up for the management of the funds in Croatia. This means that I would say that with every programming period, but even within programming period, there are always some new things which are like written somewhere in the regulations, but from time to time they become more or less emphasized, either for controlling, for auditing, or just for checking and for taking care of if we speak about certain project. One of the things which is, for example, also now challenging, I would say, is the respect of the DNSH principle. It's the respect of like no significant harm for the environment and so on. But on the other hand, I must say that in Croatia, these environmental studies impact and environmental impact in general was always somewhere there, you know, like it was always a requirement to take care of the impact on the environment. So that's why, for example, today when we come and speak with our beneficiaries about the NSH principle, it's not something which is new for them. It's something that they already know for years, but now it has a different name. This is how we always, let's say, finalize our discussions with them and our general approach to speaking about some environmental protection in implementing EU funds. What else would I emphasize in respect of the ESI funds? The variety of the projects, of the funding, which may happen at the level of the state, at the level of a country. Being an auditor for me for years in several programs, because I experienced auditing agri funds, cross-border programs, now RRF, previously Norwegian grants, or for example, European Social Fund as well. This really showed me to an auditor, as an auditor, how many different projects, ideas, concepts can be financed under ESI funds. So not just ESI funds, which are, we know them all mainstream programs, but also Norway grants or RRF or agri funds or fisheries funds. So it's indeed whenever you reach out any place, small place in Croatia, you can see the influence of various types of funding. And especially we are proud to see some kind of various visibility plugs and visibility signs showing, oh, this nice path along the sea, or this nice boat, or this very important machine in the hospital was financed under certain ESI fund. We feel quite proud with this fact, because although we are the latest in the chain and in the chain of controls, we are quite happy to see that the institution itself, that a person itself, they really bought something, they purchased something, they invested into something from the EU funds. This is this other aspect of being in the really being in the world of the implementation and management of the funds in Croatia. So this is also the thing that I would like to stress. When we really leave our offices, when we go back home or to our hometowns, it's a special feeling when you see that something is funded under a certain EU funding, and that it really shows to other people who live there, who are part of those small communities, that really EU funding is available for them. Of course, we are always kind of faced with different kind of prejudices, that this funding is really difficult to get, or that, as I mentioned before, this funding is prone to so many controls and so many things to be checked. But on the other side, we like to persuade people. We still like to persuade people that funding is available, that funding is there, and even if we come as auditors in the very end, it's not always that we are coming just to find some errors, mistakes, weaknesses, deficiencies. Sometimes we come and we indeed have no serious finding. We maybe just sometimes find a thing that can be improved, and then you see the pride and the happiness from the side of your auditee, who is actually happy to have such a nice system set up and everything functioning, but like small minor improvements are needed. So we indeed also have such cases as well. What helped us a lot, if I speak on behalf of my institution, we have at the very beginning been an audit authority of the EPA country. And we needed at the very beginning, we needed a lot of help, a lot of advice and support, and we indeed got it from many EU member states. We always used the opportunity to implement twinning projects as a beneficiary institution. And in this aspect, we have been the beneficiary of the projects which were implemented by different member states. I would like to mention just maybe a couple of them. So we got a perfect support and help, for example, from Germany, from Portugal, from Latvia, from Estonia, from Ireland. I can also mention maybe from Austria, from Lithuania, so from the Netherlands. So within all these twinning projects, we have always been, let's say, students, the people who were listening carefully to what our colleagues from member states can say. Then, of course, back in 2013, when we became an EU member state, we came into this position to actually help to other countries which were then in the position of the IPA countries, and we still do it. So now we are the experts who help to other countries who are still not EU member states, with sharing our experience, knowledge, and with having projects with them in respect of preparing as better as possible for auditing funds once they are a member state. That's why we appreciate and we still cherish our relations with all member states, the ones that we know now for like 10 or 15 years, and even those with whom we cooperate more and more today when we are all auditing EU funds in general. What is for us most important in the aspect of networking, we actually adore when we have a chance either to have some kind of the online meetings or of course meetings in person, either in Brussels or in some other cities, when we have a chance to discuss openly what are the issues, what are the challenges, what is a good side, what is a bad side, what can we say about the standards, about methodology. So there is always something new to learn. And being an auditor means that you have to be dedicated also to a constant learning process. As in all branches, auditors and auditing are really also subject to changes which happen, of course, worldwide or globally. And we have to take into account also things that can come to our tables, to our desks, for auditing as well, because we also had this special, I would say, occasion to audit some different COVID measures, to audit react processes and projects, which means that this was for us something, you have to react faster, you have to have methodology which is prepared for such project as well. So being an auditor means you cannot just constantly relax and say, I know everything. You continuously have to learn, you have to train yourself, take the opportunities for being trained whenever you can. The good thing that I can mention is that we have excellent databases, various platforms, which really give us enormous materials for our work. I would mention here the websites of the European Commission, which always provides us with perfect guidances, with those questions and answers documents, which really lead us in our work every day. Then I can mention also different networks which are being then compounded regarding various topics, for example, state aid, public procurement, double funding, and so on. So there are some horizontal topics that can always be discussed among various funds. So it doesn't matter which fund you audit, some of the topics are indeed horizontal. Then you go into more specific areas, which are then really demanding for a certain project, for certain funds. There you can always find colleagues at the level of the EU member states, which sometimes face similar problems and similar topics. So in this respect, I can say that this international cooperation is extremely important, and it really helps us to see how some other member states solved certain projects, issues, some questionable areas, and so on. And I would say that in the end, we are mostly proud also when we produce our annual reports and our annual compilation of the results of our work, because in the very end, what you have to do is that you have to report to the Commission what are the results of your annual work. Indeed, in some cases, it boils down to a report of 300 pages describing everything that was done during the year by the audit authority, by a certain service or sector, describing the audits that were performed, beneficiaries which were visited, main findings which were identified, some basic recommendations. And this report is, on the other side, extremely important because it's being sent out to the Commission to obtain general picture of what is happening throughout that year, in respect of a certain fund in Croatia, and which is then being also, let's say, recognized by the audit authority and described in a certain audit report. In this respect, this is our basic product. And audit report indeed is, if we speak in this, let's say, commercial terms, it's our most important product, promotion element, because it shows really the work of a single audit service, what was done throughout the year. And especially if I may mention also the RRF audits, since we have our so-called summaries of audit and semi-annual sending of the summaries of audit. In that aspect, we are a bit different from the mainstream ESI funds, because we have to do our work semi-annually, which means that we have to do it even faster and even more often. All these planning, execution, and reporting phases of the audit work, we have to have it twice a year, sometimes if needed also 3 times a year, because it really depends at when we opened or closed our audits. Flexibility is one of the characteristics that you have to have as an auditor, so being flexible. Being, of course, punctual in your expressions, in your formulations of the findings, of the recommendations. You have to take care of your SMART objectives. You really have to be also quite careful about giving deadlines to your auditees. You have to be realistic if we speak about what we expect from our auditees. And in the end, to summarize, you as auditor, or we as auditors, should always bear in mind that there is on the other side general objective of the country to utilize as much as possible in respect of the funds. So it's a general objective that the usage of funds, that proper legal regular utilization, which is let's say free from irregularities, is our primary objective. So funding as many as possible projects, funding as many as possible certain actions, helping to the country to use to the maximum extent what can be funded under EU funds, and of course, which all leads to those general, let's say, objectives of a member state to be, of course, competitive, to function as better as possible in all aspects, and also to get help for the reforms, in respect of the reforms of a country, which can be funded and supported by the EU funds. So this is, if I can conclude my short story now, this is in the end the full complete cycle, which is actually, let's say, showing the life of the EU funding at the level of the member state. So all begins with ideas, with concepts, with plans, with designs of projects, and it all ends with, let's say, in the end, with the reporting and with obtaining as many as possible results when we speak about results of the funds at the level of the member state.
Thank you, Marina, for such a comprehensive explanation. What does it mean to be an auditor? I think everybody would like to hear it, and especially the new ones. And we have a few seminars planned with you. One of them, and your colleague, Nicola Radic. So one of them is on closure and the operational programs. The another one is on the financial management of ESI Funds and RRF. And maybe more will come. So I'm looking forward to collaborating with you. And
Thank you. Thank you.
And we hope that more and more will benefit from your knowledge and experience as well, because I've seen you as a speaker and I know how much the interaction and the practical exercises really make a difference.
If I may just add, Viola, there is one very important aspect. I didn't mention it so far. So the function of the audit authority is actually moving a bit forward. It's not anymore so much at the very end of the controls chain, because we have to have more interaction and intervention in these control systems, meaning that something should be prevented, not just spotted at the very end when it's too late. So from my experience also of being a member of the AFCOS network, from having so many meetings with the irregularity officers and risk managers during their regular works, we can also conclude that this aspect of the audit work is extremely important. So audit work in respect of preventing role, not just coming at the very end and saying this is not good. So that's also the thing that I would like to mention.
Thank you, Marina, and thank you to everyone who is hearing us. And if you would like to have more information about auditing the ESI Funds, please feel free to write to me, or if you have any questions for Marina as well, I think we would be happy to stay in touch with everyone.